All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Saturday, January 25th, and the Texas Longhorns continue to dominate the Texas A&M Aggies in all things athletics and state flagship related in terms of which university is atop. As though there was ever any type of question, it was just answered about 20 minutes ago as the Texas Longhorns complete their 22-point comeback, tied for the largest comeback in Buzz Williams's coaching tenure at Texas A&M for the largest comeback loss against the Aggies. And so Longhorns win this one in exciting comeback fashion, led for a total of 3.7 seconds for the entire game, and it was the most important 3.7 seconds of the entire game. Heroics by Trey Johnson, heroics by Tremont Mark, who incidentally also had a game-winning buzzer beater over Texas A&M last year at Arkansas. So he is just a natural-born Aggie killer. And welcome aboard, Tremont Mark. You've made your mark in Texas Longhorn history. Trey Johnson with an all-time performance in the second half. And Rodney Terry, still a lot of questions, doesn't really answer any of the questions that I have for you. However, we will discuss our thoughts immediately following. This is our immediate reaction following the Texas Longhorns win over Texas A&M 70-69. Texas takes the W and avoids the first season sweep against Texas A&M since 1986-87 season, and avoid their first home loss to Texas A&M since 2002. It was nearly going to happen, but it didn't, and that will have to wait at least another year for Texas A&M to have those bragging rights over Texas. But the number 13 team goes down in the country. And first of all, what a basketball weekend it's going to be this Saturday. We're only just at the very tip of the iceberg here. But Jake, your initial thoughts, man?
Never in doubt. Never in doubt. I wasn't asking to record at halftime. It was never in doubt.
Text that prove that.
No, there's no ridiculous text messages for me.
From this. I'll let you give your thoughts, and then there's something we need to discuss after, but I'll let you give your thoughts first, respectfully.
Oh boy. Okay. Don't want to know what that is, but
you know what it is.
I have a feeling I know what it is. I mean, terrible first half. And like you said, I'm trying to put my thoughts together because the game did just end, and what a roller coaster of emotions it was at the end of the day. But some things that stood out to me was I've complained a lot about assists, 16 assists in this game. That is, they had more assists than the Aggies did. And that, to me, comes from an adjustment to give Rodney Terry credit, while I still have a lot of questions about his future as the Texas Longhorns basketball coach. I did like that I noticed an actual offensive set that took place and an actual offensive identity that formed in the second half as a game plan against A&M, which was using Trey Johnson along that baseline, spreading the offense out and letting the offense run through Johnson in a way that wasn't just ISO ball. Mm-hmm. ISO ball can open things up. It's okay to be driving to the basket, looking for kickouts and things of that nature. But that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me. Was this is the first time, maybe in the last 2 years, I've noticed a true offensive adjustment made in the scheme that led to success.
And was that because we were without Arthur Kaluma and we had to start a Jason Kent? We had to rely on guys like an I hear the name and I do well with it, but then I always can't say it. It's kind of like Neto for the offensive line for Texas, but Onyema. I always feel like is there a reason why we had to go with guys like Nick Cody, Onyema, Devin Pryor as the role players, the depth for this Longhorns team, with guys being out and not playing as many minutes as they normally do, and a Jordan Pope playing limited minutes and things of that nature. Did that force Rodney Terry to say, look, we don't have the ISO players to play ISO ball. Now we've got to run some set offensive pieces. And guess what? It actually looked like a functional offense for 4 points in the game, for the second half of the game. I won't go on record and say that was the case for the first half.
No, the second half of the game, they clearly made an adjustment, which is not a word I use often with Rodney Terry as the coach. They clearly knew A&M is willing to give up the baseline. You heard the broadcast talk about it. It's something that they will let you get to the baseline, and then they take away your options to pass, and they try to trap you. When you have guys that have the talent to handle those situations correctly, it actually opens a lot up for the offense.
Right.
And they did a really good job of this. And they were doing a good job of putting Ken at the high post. They were running ball screens. There was actual ball movement. And they did a much better job of handling the token pressure that A&M does to you every single time up the court, to where in the game at College Station, it felt like Texas was getting into their offense with the shot clock at 12 seconds. You can't run an offense when you don't get to the half court set really until you're well under halfway through the shot clock.
Yep.
And so they did a better job of handling that pressure. Even in the first half, they were doing a better job of handling the pressure. They just weren't running an offensive set. And they actually adjusted that at halftime, which again, this is stuff that should be happening in the first half. But now to me, this is the first game where I come out of it and go, I see a little bit of an identity, and maybe it is being without Kaluma and Weaver and having to adjust things. Now you need for when Kaluma and Weaver to come back to truly be additions and still run what your identity should be as an offense, which is running through Trey Johnson. Maybe get its ISO ball for kickouts, using ball screens. But clearly the offensive identity of this team, this is the first time we've seen any sign of there being one at all. And that is a good thing. And that is, I mean, right now, this is I said going into this game, this is a game that can be a turning point in the season. You just won a ranked game at home. Now you got to beat A&M at home. And if you do that, and without Kaluma and Weaver, I mean, injuries in basketball are more detrimental than most sports because you only got 5 guys out there at a time. You don't have as much depth. Kaluma and Weaver are 2 very key guys. Weaver's been out for a while. Kaluma's been battling injury. So to win this game is a truly season-saving win. It's a resume-building win and is a career-saving win for Rodney Terry in many ways. It doesn't mean everything's saved. You still have a lot of basketball left to play, but you started 1-4 in conference play, 0-3 to start, and now you are 3-4 in conference play.
And back-to-back wins over ranked opponents, over Missouri and now Texas A&M. And your career saved at the University of Texas put on hold for the time being. And can you stack wins? Can you stack a run? Can you go on a bit of a win streak building off of this while you start to get your team a little bit healthier and they get back on track? I do think, Jake, a lot of this offense, though, was still solely dependent on Trey Johnson making shots. And when Trey Johnson doesn't make shots, this game would have been ugly because Trey Johnson dominated that second half. Now, yes, was he the hot hand? Was he the guy who should have been taking the shots? 100%, absolutely. I don't argue anything that happened in the second half. But if Trey Johnson isn't making shots, who's next? We saw a little bit of that with Tremont Mark. We see that with Kaluma. But we've seen games where Johnson isn't at his A game in terms of scoring the basketball, taking bad shots, watching on defense. When those games happen for a freshman, because they will, it's not like he's going to play perfect for the rest of this season. He won't be dropping 30 points for the rest of the season at every single game. However, can Kaluma, can Tremont Mark, can Jordan Pope, can Larry Julian, can those guys pick up the pace and carry this team within a functioning offense and it not just tear everybody down? Because they didn't need to do that today because Trey Johnson did it in the second half and he was scoring points.
So right towards the end there, you kind of brought how I was going to counter what you said, because I've been very negative. So I'm going to try to be a little more positive this time, especially coming off 2 big wins this week. So my counter to that is part of the reason that Johnson shot better this game was he had more open looks in this game than I think he had in the rest of SEC play combined. That comes from running an offense.
Good point.
We have also seen more than Trey Johnson drop 20 to 30 plus points a game. We have seen Pope do it at times. We have seen Kaluma do it at times. We haven't seen Mark do it yet. He is capable.
Correct.
He's getting healthier. He is starting to
He's
fit
kind of
in.
starting to gel a little bit
Yeah,
within
he's
this team.
starting to gel, which is expected. He was hurt the whole start without practicing, transferring in. It takes a little while to gel for the whole team. But to me, I look at that, I always talk about this assist number going from single digit assist every game to 16 assists in a game, and you win that game.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. The rebounds in this game were bad. That's the big area that stuck out. First off, A&M is the best offensive rebounding team in the nation. Second off, I do give a little bit of a pass on that when Kaluma is your best rebounder.
Yeah.
And when you're without your best rebounder in an already team that's limited in the rebounding department against the best rebounding team in the nation, you're probably going to struggle on the boards. But to find a way around missing those key guys, not being able to hit the boards, and to find a way to win, this is the trademark moment of the season right now for this team. And now it's how can you build from this?
Yeah, and you can go one of two ways. You can either build on this and you can stack more wins and you can become a middle of the road to above average SEC team going into SEC tournament play and solidify your spot in a March Madness tournament seed, or you can go back to where you were to start conference play out and you can just kind of flatline from here on. And I think that's kind of where this season's going to go. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground. I think it's going to either be you stack wins and you end up being a top, 8 team within the conference, and then, or you're going to finish as a bottom 2, bottom 3 team in the conference. I don't think there's an in-between for this team, unfortunately. I will say this, though, Jake, in terms of the rebounding situation that you had mentioned before, I do like what I saw in the start of that second half. Texas played A&M with A&M ball and kind of dominated A&M by playing A&M basketball. They beat them with their own medicine. They crashed the boards hard on the offensive glass. They created havoc on the defense side of the ball, creating turnovers and creating mishaps for Texas A&M's offense. They got to the foul line, Jake. The free throw shooting numbers in this game are absurd, and it's really what won Texas the game. 3 of 8 from the line for Texas A&M, 14 of 17 for Texas. I mean, that right there, your free throws and your assist numbers, you win the game that way. And that's how Texas did it.
Yeah, and that has been one positive of this Texas team. They've been a pretty solid to good free throw shooting team, which is not always the case with Texas basketball.
But you got to get there. You got to get to the line.
And you get to the line by running an offense that allows you to get the defense off their mark and put them in a position to foul. And they did a great job. And all the compliments are to the second half.
Yeah.
The first half was ugly. I want to not think about it since they won this game. And now, to me, having that second half, it's all about how do you build from this? Because, yes, the win against Missouri was ugly. But like we said when we were talking about the game, a win against a ranked opponent is a good win, always.
Yep.
But to come off that and now build this win on top of it is starting to solidify some things. There's still a lot of questions. But one thing that's solidified is this team maybe isn't as bad as it was feeling it was going to go. But this next, you're talking about where you can go from here. Well, this next 4 games is your opportunity. I mean, if you're looking at these next 4 games, and it's tough because you got 3 of them on the road, but just with the competition that it is, the goal's got to be 3-1. I mean, really, because you got at Ole Miss, that's tough.
It's tough.
But you got at LSU, very winnable. Home against Arkansas, you should win that. And then at Vanderbilt is really tough to play at this year, and they've been a much better basketball squad than they've been recently. So 2-2 should be the worst case scenario over these next 4 games. And if you get Kaluma back, you get Weaver back, 3-1 feels like a great possibility. And I would really love to start by beating Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And
then you host Alabama, Kentucky. You can almost chalk those up as losses to be realistic. But then you got to stack wins again, Jake. You go on another run where you can actually finish out the rest of the season, winning your games out. I don't think, your hardest game after Kentucky is probably at Mississippi State before the season finale. And you've got out at South Carolina, at Arkansas, home against Georgia, at Mississippi State, home against Oklahoma. Those are all winnable games. Every single one of those games that I just mentioned. So you can finish your regular season following the Alabama-Kentucky games. And if you play those games hard and you build confidence within those games, regardless win or lose between Alabama and Kentucky, you can win out your final 5 games of the season. And if you have a good stretch right here, like we're talking about with stacking wins with Mizzou, A&M, and then you go at Ole Miss, LSU, and Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and you win more games than you lose in those situations in this stretch, you're setting yourself up to have a successful SEC tournament, possibly making a push into March Madness.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if this team makes the tournament, they win a game in the tournament, Rodney Terry's not getting fired. You can't fire a guy who's gone in his first 3 years, Elite Eight, tournament and a win, tournament and a win.
True.
You can't. Granted, I think he'll be firing, I think it's Haith, or I don't know how to say it, the assistant coach he brought in that's basically his friend who's running the offense.
Yeah.
No matter what, at the end of the season, I think he's got to go.
Yeah.
And I imagine Rodney Terry will be told to do that at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Rodney Terry still has a chance to keep his job. I was ready to fire him at halftime, like go in the locker room, fire him.
Yeah.
But that's why you play a full game, and that's why I'm a fan. I overreact while players and coaches try to put together a plan to come back, and a 22 comeback against little brother, just avoiding them getting any type of full satisfaction in this athletic season feels pretty good, because them sweeping us in basketball, they would have made that a bigger deal than they would ever make it if Texas swept them.
Yeah.
And instead, they don't even get that. And the funniest thing is this is one of the best basketball teams A&M has ever had when you just look at rankings and wins. And this is a Texas team that's looked like one of the weaker teams, and now their records are almost identical, and they've split their games.
Death, taxes, and Texas A&M being little brothers. It's
and choking.
Yeah, and choking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you buy a kid's toy and it says choking hazard, just put a Aggie symbol, choking hazard.
Speaking of being a fan, an emotional fan, making irrational decisions in the middle of a game, I want to talk about what you did about maybe 2 minutes remaining left in the first half, going into halftime, and then the majority of the second half until about, I don't know, 3-4 minutes left in the second half.
It was more than that.
It wasn't okay. Well, you
like
tell me, Jake. I just want to know what was going through your head. What was on your mind? What were you doing? Were you enjoying the game, or were you possibly out doing something, not watching the game and watching this 22-point comeback? Like
this is a lot of fake news that is going out right now.
I'm sorry. No, that is fake news. You're fake newsing my fake news.
I may have decided to run an errand, and I may have won Texas this basketball game.
You shouldn't have. In my humble opinion, because I have made decisions like this in the past, whether that be Dallas Cowboy games or what have you, where I don't finish the game whenever I stop watching, because I'm like, you know what? If they make the comeback, and they fall short of this comeback, it's gonna be my fault that I continued watching.
Well, see, and they would fall short because you wouldn't come in to give them that final bit of push that they need. See, I walked away and that motivated them. Okay. And so then I come back with 8 minutes left. Texas is still losing this whole time, by the way, when I start watching it, but they're like, he's watching again. We made him believe, and that gave them the push to finish out the comeback.
You were the sixth man.
Yes, I was the sixth man. You could argue I brought just as much of a part of this comeback as Trey Johnson.
I don't know if I go that far. I will say it was almost a Vontae Davis type performance, where at halftime you just walked off and went in your car and quit on the team. And then they got galvanized by the toxicity of the locker room. They're like, oh man, we can finally breathe. There's some breathing room here in this locker room. Now we can finally be ourselves, and we can play our style of basketball. And that's more so the performance I'm leaning towards, to be honest with you.
So but while we're doing this, we're not going to mention all the Texas basketball games that I have watched all the way through this year that you didn't watch. And you texted me, I forgot they were even playing basketball.
That's not that. I never said I forgot they were playing. I was keeping up with the game. I have other things I have going on.
Yeah. I'm going to find
I
I'm not
forgot
going to
what
take the time to go back
no,
because I know
I
this was a
forgot
week
what
or so
time
ago.
I forgot what time they were starting, Jake, not that they were playing.
That means you forgot they were actively
The
playing.
start time, I was like, "Oh, it's an hour later." It's like
Oh, how
it's
the
at 7:30,
turntables.
not at 6:30. That's what it was, and then I start watching or keeping up with it at that point in time.
Yeah, but let's not pretend that I'm the villain here. They were losing by
Jake,
20
you're
plus.
wearing you're Darth Jacob right now. You're Darth Jimmers. I mean, of course you're the villain. What are you talking about?
That is true.
Yeah.
This game brought me to that point.
Yeah, we
But
would have had
I
to
was
have
there for the final 8 minutes. I watched the final eight. I think it was 8:45. I walked through the door. I went and ran a couple errands because I was like, this game's going to end at 4. We're going to record. It's going to be like 5 o'clock. I'm not going to want to go anywhere at that point because it's going to be getting dark, which means it gets really freaking cold here. And I was like, I'm just going to go run them real quick and I'll come back and finish the game and then record. I got back with just under 9 minutes to go. And
it started at 8 and now it's at 9.
I said
Jesus Christ.
8:45, and then I decided just under 9 sounds a little bit better. And they were
Golly,
still
man.
losing by, I think it was like 10, 11 points. And I watched the rest of it. And then they won the game.
All right, leave a comment. Is Jake a Fairweather fan or not? Just leave a
Oh,
comment. Let us
boy.
know. Let us know.
I'm a Fairweather fan. You certainly are too. I've watched more Texas basketball this year than you.
Oh, I don't know if that's true or not. I was watching Delaware State and stuff. You were not watching those games. I was watching more non-conference games.
I don't know about that one, Jim.
We're probably
I don't know, Jim.
Oh, look, there's a flag, Jim. Chiefs are still alive. Game's not over. Speaking of Jake, yeah, we'll dig in real quickly. Do you want to do a little conference championship prediction? We never got to that.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask the same thing since the games are tomorrow.
Yeah, we never got to that point in our recording week, and so well, any final thoughts first before we go into conference championship games in the NFL? Texas A&M. Final thoughts.
Little brothers do little brother things. They are kind of like the Scrappy Doo to Scooby Doo, and
They are.
They really are
loud,
just
obnoxious. They nonstop talk, and then when it comes down to action, they never.
They have cemented their place back into the role they were in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I couldn't say it any better myself. All right, Jake. Let's quick thoughts on the two games. I will lead with the NFC Championship game. You can follow suit if you have anything to say about what a travesty this game has become. Washington, Philadelphia. You're looking at two Dallas Cowboy fans. Regrettably, but unfortunately, that's what we are. I mean, it's going to stay that way till the end of time. And I'm not one of the fans that are just going to be like, well, I'm 30 years old. I can just change my allegiance. That doesn't happen. So, possibly one of the more disappointing seasons in Dallas Cowboy history. It followed one of the more disappointing postseason games in Dallas Cowboy history with the Green Bay game as the number 2 seed in the NFC. And you fall completely flat on your face after 3 straight trips to the playoffs. And you play a Green Bay team who had not even played in a playoff game with the roster that they had. And you get demolished at home and a very, what could have been favorable road to the Super Bowl, or at least to the NFC Championship game. Choke that one away. You go into the offseason, do absolutely nothing. You go all in the offseason, I apologize. And you do absolutely nothing. And then you've got a 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon Barkley, who Cowboy fans were like, hey, why not? If he's on the trading block, why not put a bid in for him? But not only that, but hey, let's put a bid in at least for Derrick Henry. He's a free agent. You don't have to give anything up for him. He is also basically a 2,000-yard rusher. Oh, no. 2 running backs that ended up in the MVP race. You don't go for. And then
didn't even call.
One goes to your arch rival and the Philadelphia Eagles and makes them a Super Bowl contending team now playing for an NFC Championship game. And then you've got your defensive coordinator and your offensive coordinator on coaching staffs for both of these two teams with Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn. leading the charge for Philly and for Washington.
I think 10 total coaches is
And-
between assistants and position coaches.
And the amount of players that Dan Quinn poached off of the Dallas Cowboys to make his roster complete in Washington, just icing on the cake. And then you want to go in and hire Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach the week of this game on top of it. And you don't even have the common courtesy to do it during the game at like halftime, drop the news and just take a little bit of the sting away to where it's like, well, at least the Cowboys are running the headlines during the Philly-Washington NFC Championship game. We can at least do that. No one's going to care about this story.
For the first time ever, Jerry does a Friday night news dump.
Since when?
Because he knows it's a bad hire.
Yeah. When has he ever done that? And so anyway, that's where we are. That's my NFC recap. And I'm going to take Washington because I refuse to pick Philly.
Yeah, I would. I hate Philly so much that I would prefer Washington to win because at least I can respect the fact that their fans have truly been tortured, similar to how we have been for the past 3 decades. While Philly fans are just
ownership.
While Philly fans have great ownership, great general management, and just a terrible fan base and a mayor who can't even spell Eagles.
EGELS.
And so that means more than likely, I picked at the start of the playoffs. I said Philly, Bills in the Super Bowl, and Philly wins because I imagine that would be the maximum amount of pain that could happen to me. I was wrong because I didn't expect Washington to make an NFC title game on top of that to truly inflict. So everything I've thought about maximum pain, the world has found a way to increase maximum pain. While Brian Schottenheimer gets hired as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, words that I can't believe are coming out of my mouth right now. So I'm going to stick with Philly winning in this game, probably in dominant fashion, and then them winning the Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills. There's my AFC pick. I think Josh Allen, that's the game Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are my only chance at any type of happiness.
Yeah.
I don't have a second team. But I've always said if I had to pick a second team, it would be the Buffalo Bills. That was even before Josh Allen, just because I like their colors. I like their old school helmets and the kind of the style they've gone to again with the white helmet, their logo.
Way better than the blue helmets that they had.
Bills Mafia. I love that. I love the environment and
playing Blizzard.
And so they're my only chance at any. And I live in Kansas City, and I'm sick of the Chiefs. I'm sick of all my coworkers being happy. I picked the worst time to move here. I'm just surrounded by. I got to listen to freaking fireworks until 2 a.m. every time they win the Super Bowl. Go to work tired. Everyone else comes to work tired after the Super Bowl, but happy. I come tired and just mad because I didn't sleep good because of fireworks, and just upset and bitter. And I got to listen to everyone be happy. And now we have an Eagles fan in our office too. So this is just, this is shaping up exactly as I expected, other than Washington being in it. So Philly wins big. I think Buffalo finally gets it done. And then everyone goes, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They finally got past Chiefs. And then they lose to Philly, and Saquon Barkley gets Super Bowl MVP because he is by far, I would argue he's league MVP. I think if you take him off the Eagles and just put an average running back there, they would have lost the division to Washington.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they would have had home playoff games for sure. Who knows that they win the division? Who knows that they don't make the playoffs? But because I don't know kind of where they would have shaped up. But I agree. I'd give it to Josh Allen. But my take on the AFC Championship game, Jake. I'm gonna go Chiefs because it's inevitable. It's just what they do. We immediately replaced the New England Patriots with another different version of the New England Patriots.
Maybe a better version.
Except it's
they three-peat.
Yeah, I mean it's Thanos, and it is just with all the rings, he's not going to stop until his gauntlet is completely filled. And then at a snap of his fingers, he'll erase the entire league. That's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at this point. And what a crazy career for Andy Reid to go from can't win the big one to now he can't not win the big one. And so, yeah, I'm rooting for the Bills. I want the Bills to win. I want that to go on record. I will be wearing, a Josh Allen jersey if I possibly could. I don't own one, but if I did own one, I would wear it. And I'm full Bills Mafia right now, but unfortunately, I just think it's the Chiefs and a little bit more against the world, and they're going to probably win the whole damn thing, to be completely honest with you. I just don't see a scenario in which the Chiefs lose this game, and if they do, then great. I'll be extremely happy. But they just know they're one of those light switch teams. They just know how to turn it on, and everything goes their way. And whenever they do get a crucial call go their way, they make sure they capitalize on it and they make the most out of it. It's not that they get every call, it's when they happen on 3rd and 15 to extend a drive, and then they go on and score 2 plays later. That's what happens with the Chiefs, and they will make you pay for it.
Yeah. And it's funny that everyone talks about this light switch with Kansas City. Like, they turn on the light switch in the playoffs, and
They're 15.
I get it because they do play better in the playoffs than do. They were 15-2, basically 15-1, because they punted the last
Mahomes
game.
is 15-1 this season.
Yeah. So it's like they're a light switch team. They're not that good all regular season, and then they turn on the playoff, and it's like they were 15-1 in the regular season, essentially.
Yeah.
It's just funny because that's how high. And if they win this, they're arguably a better version of the Patriots. I mean, it'd be the first three-peat in NFL history, I believe.
Yep.
And
it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first time a team makes the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, but it would be the first time a team wins a Super Bowl 3 years.
I think the Bills made it
4 years.
4 years in a row and lost all 4.
And then the Vikings back in the 70s with the Purple People Eaters, they made 4 in a row, and they didn't win a single one of those. They were just like the Bills back then. So
yeah, now the Chiefs are going to go 4 in a row and win all 4. I mean, they're quickly catching the Patriots.
Yeah.
And they're still, far as if you compare the length of Brady's career and you say Mahomes is going to play that long, they have all the time in the world to get a few more.
Well, if you and then you look at it too, Jake, I mean, if you compare where they are in their careers at this point, Mahomes has already surpassed Brady in about every single metric that Brady did at this point in their careers.
Yeah. Part of that is the NFL is a lot different now than it was then, as far as the statistical side of things. Yeah. The winning side of things is what's really crazy.
Yeah.
And impressive.
Yeah. All the things. So, all right, Jake. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of All in Horns. That is our immediate reaction. Again, Horns with a 22-point comeback over the Texas A&M Aggies at home. Go ahead.
Sorry, last thing. There are videos out there on Twitter, and Arch Manning, that instead of using the T-shirt canning, was just launching T-shirts into the crowd because he has a cannon. And the picture of him talking to Mac Brown, which I thought was going to be how we led the show. Because I thought Texas was going to have just lost by 40.
Right.
But instead, it actually got buried. If you haven't seen those, go check them out online. It is cool.
Mac Brown talking to Michael Taff and Arch Manning in the crowd is a pretty freaking sweet scene to see. And whenever I saw that, I was like, ah. And then I was just like, then I looked down at the scoreboard. I was like, oh. Yeah.
Maybe they brought the Longhorn magic. Arch magic has already begun.
Arch mania has already, trust me, it's been begun since he signed with Texas. But yeah, Jake, that's going to do it. Again, great game for the Longhorns. Great second half for the Longhorns. And, a big comeback to hopefully kind of spark their season into the right direction when it comes to postseason play, whether that be SEC tournament or even the March Madness tournament. So with all that being said, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That's Jake Jimerson. And as always, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.